Thank you.
So we're here to sort of mark Frank Kinloch, and his life. And we are fortunate to have, as I said downstairs, to have Peggy here, who's a year younger than Frank, she really, does carry Frank's history very much close to her heart. Yes, I remember, it's not quite how I thought of starting, but I remember Peggy and I talking, maybe it's a year ago now, Peggy, I can't quite remember, and just hearing in Peggy's voice the wish, her wish for the best for Frank through a time that I think Frank must have found quite difficult. Never mind Peggy, who he was staying with at the time. So just to let you know a little bit about the man, in case you haven't picked this up on Facebook or other places. So Frank was born on the 2nd of January 1947, and he died on the 2nd of September 2013. He lived for 66 years and 8 months to the day, if you take the date as being in the family, he has an older sister, Ruth, who lives in Alberta. He's got an older brother, Jim, who lives in Rockville, as does Peggy. Frank is then in the middle, and then there's you, Peggy, and then there's Billy, who lives in Scotland, and there's Isabel, who lives in Surrey. And there was, I don't think I noted this, but there was one brother who died 15 years ago. Is that right, Peggy?
Yes.
And his Robin, yes. Sorry. Listen. So they all grew up in I hope I get this right, Balanoch, See, I'm from the East Coast and they're from the West Coast, so it's tricky pronunciation. He went to St Mungo's Academy, and Peggy sent me this news. At the age of 14, he was given the last rites as he had contracted a very bad illness, and he spent 3 years in hospital. And I've at times been reflecting on that, and I wonder what impact that had on Frank's life. I haven't come to any conclusion. He married Grace at 25 years of age, and they were married for 25 years. And he spent the last 20 years taking care of Grace. And they had 2 sons, Paul and Jonathan. It's a pity they're not here. I'd have really liked to have met them. For myself, I've known Frank since 1980. We met at the London Buddhist Centre, and it was quite easy to strike up a friendship with Frank. I remember us meeting at the centre, but we also went out into the West End for a few times, for a meal and a chat and just hanging out. I also do remember visiting his house in South London. I think I had a car, or was borrowing a car at the time, and I did meet Grace, and I think I met one of the 2 sons. And I know Frank was very proud of his sons. They meant a lot to him. When I lived in Colchester for those 14 years, I remember Frank coming up for a day. In our lives, we just seem to link in every now and then. And I remember the night Grace died, he emailed me and said, "Please send letter to Grace." This email I received the morning after Grace died. I didn't know Grace that well, nor had a pictorial image of her, so I did the next best thing and sent the letter to Frank, hoping that he would impart a more fortified warm-heartedness to her. And this, the death of Grace, led to Frank and I being more in touch. And at one point he decided that he had had enough of his town in Scotland where it appears he was the only Celtic supporter. The rest were Rangers ones. And he emailed me and said, and asked if I knew of any places he could rent locally. And as it happened, I did, and I sent a list to Frank, and it wasn't long before he was down here. Travel was always very easy for Frank, because he'd worked at Waterloo, giving train timetables. So he had more or less a free rail pass to go anywhere in Britain. So he turned up in Ipswich, he found a place to stay, and he moved down. And I remember us talking, not far from evolution. He said, I've come down here to develop Kalyana Mitra, that is spiritual friendships. That's what he said he wanted to do. Yeah. So he was established, he started coming to the centre, he started meeting all of you, he hung out with all of you in different ways and different times. And one particular time, as I said downstairs, I did meet Marlene. I think it was a couple of times on one particular visit, Marlene was over visiting Frank. It's really lovely to know that it was in this particular shrine room that Frank became a Mitra, along with Claire and Gary Lee Scott. Gary can't be here tonight because his work commitments are just too strong for him. Yeah, he tried, I know he tried. I got a little email, I think it's this morning, saying, I just can't come. Yeah, but I'm sure he'd be wishing Frank well. Whilst Frank was here, he was part of my men's group. He did visit Pavloka with, that's our men's retreat centre in Norfolk. He went there with Darsara, I think one or two other friends from Ipswich. And they really enjoyed it. I remember seeing Frank after that visit, and he was just so bright and positive. But I don't think it was long after visiting Pavloka he took it in his head that he was going to move from Ipswich and marry a woman he met in Thailand. Yeah, that was what he was going to do. Yeah, and that's what he did. And when he eventually did go, again it was a period of not hearing much. And then I heard he was in difficulties in Thailand. And the next I knew, he popped up in Rockville, Maryland. He popped up. And I think that photo downstairs of Frank standing next to Mr. Donut Man or whatever was the first I saw of Frank in the States. Yeah? And I had very little communication with him while he was there. But I had quite a bit with Peggy, so I had a view, an idea of what was going on for Frank. And lastly, I'd just like, before we go into, I'd like to just share with you the last communication I had with Frank, which was on the 27th of June this year via LinkedIn, and it went like this: Hi H, hang in there, old boy, keep the heat, that means don't lose your head, keep the heat, keep the faith, not always eye to eye, but you were here, not always eye to eye, but were there when needed. Thanks a bunch. Married an African-American lady, living in Germantown, Maryland. America is a mixed bag, like the curate's egg, good in parts, are the best. That's it. My reply was, okie dokie Frank, it's been a long time no speak, which means it's been a long time without speaking. I've kept up a little with your manoeuvres by your sister. Are you happy and well? I'm in fair form, a wee bit tired tonight, so no centre, with Metta, Harshaprabha. So, it's been a long time with Frank. Half his life I've known him, 33 years. Yeah. Okay, so let's begin the service with, it's begun. Let's chant the refuges and precepts in call and response. I couldn't help laughing as I stood in front of the shrine to salute it, because there in front of me, and I hadn't noticed it before, is Frank's kilt. Facing me. And I smiled because the last time I was close to that kilt was when a Mogavajra, Frank and I were invited to a fancy dress do at one of Vayamati's houses in Colchester. I think there were 3 women who had their birthdays there. And we were invited to this fancy dress party. And we decided we'd all wear kilts. Frank supplied the kilts. I'm sure that's the one he was wearing. We all wore our kilts, turned up. It wasn't a fancy dress party. But did we blink? Not much. And that's the photo you see downstairs. That's Frank and I at that fancy dress party. Yeah. Okay. That wasn't quite the introduction to Refugees and Precepts. There is, we've got, this Frank and his life. So Refugees and Precepts. Frank being a Buddhist, becoming a Mitra here, and he's playing a big part in becoming a Mitra, showing our devotion and value in the Buddha, our real heartfelt appreciation for the Dharma, and our love and connection with the Sangha. Namo tassa,
Namo tassa,
bhagavato arahato,
bhagavato arahato,
samma sambuddhassa,
samma sambuddhassa,
namo tassa,
namo tassa,
bhagavato arahato,
bhagavato arahato,
samma sambuddhassa,
samma sambuddhassa,
namo tassa,
namo tassa,
bhagavato arahato,
bhagavato arahato,
samma sambuddhassa,
samma sambuddhassa,
buddhang saranang gacchami,
buddhang saranang gacchami,
dhammang saranang gacchami,
dhammang saranang gacchami,
sanghang saranang gacchami,
sanghang saranang gacchami,
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami,
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami,
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami,
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami,
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami,
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami,
Tatyampi buddhang saranang gacchami,
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami,
Tatyampi dhammang saranang gacchami,
Tatyampi dhammang saranang gacchami,
Tatyampi sanghang saranang gacchami,
Tatyampi sanghang saranang gacchami,
Panatipata,
Panatipata,
Veramani,
Veramani,
Sikkhapadam,
Sikkhapadam,
Samadhiyami,
Samadhiyami,
Adinadana,
Adinadana,
Veramani,
Veramani,
Sikkhapadam,
Sikkhapadam,
Samadhiyami,
Samadhiyami,
Kamesu,
Kamesu,
Chachara,
Nichachara,
Veramani,
Veramani,
Sikkhapadam,
Sikkhapadam,
Samadhiyami,
Samadhiyami,
Musavada,
Musavada,
Veramani,
Veramani,
Sikkhapadam,
Sikkhapadam,
Samadhiyami,
Samadhiyami,
Surameya,
Surameya, loving kindness.
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With open-handed generosity.
With open-handed generosity.
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With stillness, simplicity and contentment.
With stillness, simplicity and contentment.
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With truthful communication.
With truthful communication.
I purify my speech.
I purify my speech.
With mindfulness clear and radiant.
With mindfulness clear and radiant.
I purify my mind.
I purify my mind.
So, when the Buddha was asked, was asked about death and what happens at death, he gave the image of two candles being next to one another. One was unlit and the other one was coming very, very close to the end of, I could say, its candle life. And what the Buddha said is when that candle goes out, then whatever has gone out then moves over and lights up the candle next to it. But the candle next to it may not be the same size, the same shape, the same colour, as the previous one. And maybe, you can't have genders in candles, but maybe not the same gender either. And I was just thinking of Frank, the image of the candle, because one way he looked at himself, he said he was so laid back, he was almost horizontal. So if we ever come across a young kid and think of a candle where the flame is going sort of horizontal, maybe it's worth giving them another look. Anyway, that's what the Buddha says. It's like something moves on, but what moves on may not resemble what has just been left behind. Okay. And when I think about death, I think of that movement from one candle going out, the other one lighting. Well, what's going on? It's like there's a journey from one to the other. And in journeys, if we know somebody's going on a journey, well, we wish them the best. We hope things will go very well for them. And knowing that Frank is in that journey at the moment, is on that journey at the moment, I thought it'd be a really good idea to put over some time to wish him the best in that journey. And when we introduced the Metta Bhavana meditation, the meditation that's to do with the development of loving kindness, the development of loving kindness, the bringing into a stronger, warmer heart for more of our waking time, we could say. We use phrases, and I think they're so appropriate for somebody on a journey. We'd say, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering, and may you progress. I think that's something we can wish Frank tonight. We'll have a 3-stage Metta Bhavana, so we'll have a few minutes for ourselves, then we'll have a few more minutes for Frank, and then after that we'll have a time, say, similar to Frank, just bringing those to mind that we know are connected to Frank and beyond, others that we are aware of in our lives at the moment. Yeah? And I'll ring the bell, and at each stage I'll mention those phrases just in case you've forgot them. But as I always say, in introducing the Metta Bhavana, if you feel a warm connection, there's no need for the phrases. That's your connection with yourself, with Frank, and with those others. Okay. So a 3-stage Metta Bhavana. Beginning with ourselves. appreciating ourselves, valuing ourselves. So we now arrive at a point where Peggy, Marley and Raghuvanshi are going to contribute in their own way to this service. So over to Peggy.
Frank had a lot of stories we did together. And I remember when he first came to London, he was living with my sister Mary, and I was living with her too, and he had a disagreement, so he left. And I was worried about him, so I called him up and I said I would meet him somewhere and he gave me this address, and when I got there, it was a vacant lot, and I said, Frank, why did you make me go to a vacant lot? He says, because I have all these girlfriends and you front my style. and that was one time. And then there was another time when he got drunk, and it was a foggy night, and he pitched his tent in the roundabout in central London. We woke up the next morning with all the cars going around him. And then there was another time where I couldn't find him. I found him in the laundromat. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, what are you doing here? He said, I'm watching my socks go around. I said, Frank, you cannot wash black socks with white shirts. He said, yes you can. They're easier to find when you're looking for them. I said, they're grey. You can't do that. I don't care. You know, and that was just the way he was. Or another time, we went looking for shoes, and he picked up one shoe, and I said, you need 2 shoes, Frank. He says, no, I only want 1 shoe. I said, you can't buy 1 shoe. He says, I've got 1 leg. And he insisted that he only buy 1 shoe. He says, it's half price. And that's the kind of things that Frank would do. And he used to always pull jokes on when I was very little. He used to, if he had a girl coming up, he would put me in the trash can and sit on it. The lid. And tell me to be quiet. So those are some of my memories of Frank. You know, when he was very young. And he was always teaching me something. He used to read National Geographic to me when I was a little kid, because he wanted to be an archaeologist. And, well, and then he got sick. He got an injection at school, and he was taken to Kinloch Hospital and just outside Glasgow, and he was in a coma, and the priest came and gave him his last rites. He pulled out of that, and then he was on a wheelchair for over a year, and then after the wheelchair it was crutches, and after the crutches it was a walking stick, and he just took everything in his stride, except when I was around and he tried to hit me with his stick. Because I annoyed him. I always knew what he was up to. Whether he wanted me or not, I always knew what he was up to. He'd tell me to get out of his head, so I'm not there. So that's all I can share.
Peggy still did know what Frank was getting up to till very, very recently. Anyway, so thanks, Peggy. Marlene.
Well, can I just add one thing that you don't know about? He did not marry the Thai lady.
Oh.
You all think he did, but he didn't. He had a nice fancy ceremony, but he never made it legal. Because I remember asking him about that. What happened to the Thai lady? What happened to that marriage? Don't you need to get a divorce? No, because I never really married her in the first place. He said.
I've just been talking to Frank and asking him what he thinks I should say. Frank, it's very difficult to sum up anybody in a few words, especially someone who has so many contradictory elements in them, someone who is so incredibly stupefyingly profound, and at the same time so innocent and so childlike. You know, the innocent and childlike is not picking up his socks.
Oh yeah.
For example, Frank and I, we really got to know each other when I visited him in 2008 in Scotland, and unbeknown to either of us, we met at a crossroads in our lives, and we actually needed to meet at that particular moment in time in order to help each other get out of a difficult situation. So later Frank came to visit me, and actually Frank came after Frank had got out of jail, never mind got out of his part of his marriage with the Thai woman. He came to visit me, and he stayed with me for a little while. Frank loved poetry. I know that when a person leaves their body, what is left for the people who are still walking around in their bodies are memories, and and of course memory does get muddled up a little bit, or quite a bit actually, and so after having learned that Frank had left, of course it makes you think about many things. It makes you think about life and death, and not for the first time I'm appreciating that death as well as life. In fact, death I think has kind of got the edge on life, because death really has an amazingly powerful effect to make things happen. You know, death created or sort of gave me the chance to find my way back to Peggy, who I had met in 2001, and we'd kind of lost contact, and death has also brought me here in order to be able to be with you and to feel the presence of Frank, the presence of this unique soul who you carry with you in your hearts and your minds. And for me that's a wonderful, indescribable feeling. And I suppose they do say, you know, that we die many times, and certainly for me, whether or not that's in connection with Buddhism, I believe that we live many times and we die many times, and we've had many lifetimes, and my grief is moderated by the knowledge that I am totally and utterly convinced that Frank and I will meet again in the next lifetime. And I have certain ideas of what I may or may not say to him as well in that next lifetime. I only pray that we find each other a little bit earlier had an amazing impact. I mean, even for the little time that you may have known, he had an amazing impact. Person who practiced incredible self-deprecation. I never really felt he liked having the limelight on him. He liked to observe what was going around, but an inimitable character, and one could not get away with having known Frank and not experience his sense of humour and his sense of sort of fun with things, which is part of that childlike quality, which was for me completely irresistible. And of all the things that I treasure about Frank was his laid-backness, his incredible patience, and patience in the sense that in 2008 I really fell head over heels in love with Frank. And he had the patience to wait until I came to my senses and held a certain energy, for me until I calmed down and realised that it wasn't really that made my relationship special with him, but a much deeper feeling, which if I go back, I can feel his presence, not just in this lifetime, but I'm sure in other lifetimes, and so to me, I am very grateful for this service, but I talk to him in the present tense, because death is, as Harshaprabha has said, is a journey. It's a beginning, and I've been graced with another beginning by his departure, and this is my way and my need to say goodbye to the tasks which he performed, the teaching which he did in this particular lifetime.
Is there for honest poverty that hangs his head and all that? The coward slave we pass him by, we dare be poor for all that. For all that and all that, our toils obscure and all that. The rank is but the guinea stamp, the man's the gold for all that. What though unhomely fare we dine, we're hodden grey and all that. Gay fools their silks and knaves their wine, a man's a man for all that. For all that and all that, their tinsel show and all that. The honest man, though e'er sae poor, is king o' men for all that. You see yon birkie called the Lord, who struts and stares and all that. Though hundreds worship at his word, he's but a coof for all that. For all that and all that, his ribbon star and all that. The man o' independent mind, he looks and laughs at all that. A prince can make a belted knight, a marquis, duke and all that. But an honest man's above his might, good faith he maunna fall that. For all that and all that, the dignities and all that, the pathos, sense and pride o' worth, are high as come it will for all that sense and worth o'er all the earth shall bear the gree and all that. For all that and all that, it's coming yet for all that man to man the world o'er shall brothers be for all that. For all that and all that, it's coming yet for all that man to man the world o'er shall brothers be for all that. So I was just thinking this morning what I would do for Frank, and I thought I'd sing him a song. So quite a big like that.
Yes, that's one of his favourite songs.
Great, chosen well then.
Yes.
So yeah, quite like something from bands. It's quite often when Frank and I would meet, we would talk about some poetry or some philosophy, and he's quite fond of bands, Scots, bard. I first met Frank when he relocated here after the death of his wife Grace, and Harshaprabha was saying he wanted to deepen his connection with Buddhism and Buddhist friends, and really follow up his interest in Buddhism. And probably, was it Patna that he lived in? Is that the name of the place? That's right.
Sorry?
Was it Patna that he lived up in Ayrshire? Was that the name of the place?
Kinloch.
Kinloch. So it was Kinloch. And yeah, I mean, if you've ever been in Kinloch, you want to get out there quickly. So he moved to Ipswich, and yeah, it was his friendship with Harshaprabha that allowed him, or he was a bit in the way of part of his journey to get out of Kinloch and back down to some connection with Buddhism, some connection with the Bible. And myself and Harshaprabha and Frank would meet regularly, and we would do the old Friday night curry at Zyka, and I know a few of you have partaken of some of those events. And on a Sunday afternoon down at Colours on the Quay with coffee. And a significant part of those discussions, those evenings were discussing Dharma and discussing substantial things. Yeah. And part of that, in a way, was Harshaprabha trying to round Frank up to get him into becoming a good Buddhist, and Frank went along with that. Just slipping the noose whenever he he was always his own man, and it was very interesting. He had an interest in culture. He was good, congenial company, Frank. And he had his interest in poetry, he had his interest in philosophy, he had and history as well. And he never was, you were saying, he wanted to become an archaeologist. He didn't know that. That's really interesting. And yeah, I think he initiated one of the poetry evenings that we had here, and it was a really sort of well enjoyed and well loved evening. I kind of thought of Frank a wee bit as a kindred spirit. We were both working class Glaswegians, displaced by a good schooling.
Yeah, that sums it up.
I was brought up working class. My mother was from Bridgeton. My mother's family come from Bridgeton, which is as working class as you get in Glasgow. Frank was from Kinloch.
We were higher up.
Higher up, yes. That's quite a bit higher up than Berry Valley. But Frank went to St Mungo's, and as far as I know, St Mungo's was a school you had to pass an exam to get to.
Well, it used to be a school that you paid for, because my grandfather had money. I don't know what he did with it, but anyway, he had money. And so my father went to St Mungo's Academy, and then Frank went to St Mungo's Academy because he won all these prizes school.
Yeah.
So
that was, I mean, so Frank was intelligent and, well, I'm not surprised in a way to hear that your grandfather had, a bit of money behind him, because there was something about Frank that was working class Glaswegian, and there's different types of working class Glaswegians. Some of them really value education, and Frank seemed to be one of them.
My father always was reading, and he was a troublemaker. Actually, he would fight with all the officials and stuff, and he would memorize everything that he wanted to use against them. Yeah. And he read and he read and he read. He knew everything. He knew Rumi, and all the Middle Eastern poets and everything. So that's what Frank got.
So it's quite remarkable, isn't it? And because sometimes you think of Glasgow in the 1950s, and you get these razor gangs. But then you've got, your father reading Rumi, when, how had anybody heard of Rumi? And so there's a really interesting...
And Oh My Khayyam, that was another one.
Yeah, I remember quite talking about that. So, really interesting. Working class Glaswegians have a certain... some of them have a real sense of culture and importance of community and a sense of kindred. So in a way, sometimes I felt like kindred spirit with Frank, someone who shared something of a similar nature, of a similar interest. I thought he was born in Springbourne, but I was corrected that he was born in Kinloch.
No, actually, we grew up in Kinloch. He was born in Springbourne, and so was I.
I was born in the Stockhill Hospital in Springbourne.
Oh, I know where that is.
Yeah.
No, he was just born at home.
At home. So he always struck me as being a very good-natured person, and I never knew of him getting angry. He might have got angry, but I never came across means becoming angry. He's a very good-natured. Certainly not for the lassies. Yeah.
Oh God, I could tell you stories about that one.
Well, you've told me some. But one of the things I also noticed with Frank was that, in a way, there was something innocent and childlike about him. In a way, women, he almost needed women to look after him in a particular way, to make sure he had the same coloured socks on, ties, laces for him, or do his school time.
That's because my mother always did that, because he was ill.
Sorry, but he wasn't. He didn't object to embellishing the I can't do my shoelaces.
Right.
He didn't have anything against having just making it a little bit more clear and obvious to a particular attractive lady who might be a possible candidate for shoelace tying.
Frank had an apartment in my house downstairs, and one day I went downstairs and there was this Thai lady there, but there was no Frank. So I called him up and said, Frank, there's a woman in my basement. He goes, oh yeah. And I said, why? And he goes, I double-dated, it was a mistake. So what am I supposed to do with her? Oh, nothing, she can stay there till I come back from the States. I couldn't believe it. She doesn't even speak English, she's in her basement. Oh, she'll be fine.
Was she fine?
No.
Okay, you probably have to look after her.
And so I had to watch everything he did, because he gets himself into these scrapes, you know what I mean? He went out with this Thai lady, and she kept telling him that she had to buy lamb chops. And Frank said he was amazed at that, but what she really wanted was a lamb chop.
So another thing that struck me about Frank was, I thought, as I was saying to you earlier, I thought Thailand and then over to
Germany.
and to the US. It required quite a bit of an intrepid spirit and a bit of courage and to uproot and try and remove yourself, because he was in his 60s when he was doing this. And people have talked about his good sense of humour, and I think you could see life's ironies, and it didn't usually get him down in my experience. It never saw him down with it. I was very sad when Frank moved away. I could understand why he wanted to move to Thailand, because he suffered with an arthritic hip, and in the British winters it was painful for him to walk about Ipswich, and certainly better weather than Kinloch, but not as warm and as dry as I can imagine it being in Thailand. So I could understand. It was very sad, but I could see why he might want to do it. So I think I might just finish with something I was going to start with, but actually I thought I'll finish with it. And this is another point in Burns. Well, it's a bit of it, actually. I'm not going to say the whole lot. And if you don't understand it all, then that's fine, because neither do I. When Chapman Billies leave the street and droopy neighbours meet, as market days are wearing late and folk begin to take the gate, while we sit browsing at the nappy and getting fur and unco happy, we think not on the long Scots miles, the mosses, waters, slaps and stiles that lie between us and our hame, where sits our sulky, sullen rain, gathering our brows like gathering storm, nursing our wrath to keep her warm. This truth found honest Tam O'Shanter, as he from air one night did canter, old air, who never a town surpasses for honest men and bonny lasses. O Tam, hadst thou but been sae wise, and taken your own wife Kate's advice, she told you well you were a skellum, a blethering, blustering, drunken blellum, that from November till October, each market day you was not sober, that ilka melder with a miller, you sat as long as you had siller, that every night was caught as sure, the smith in league at roaring full, that at the Lord's house, even on Sunday, we drank with Captain Jean till Monday. She prophesied that late or soon you would be found deep drowned in doom, or caught with warlocks in the murk by Alloway's old haunted kirk. Ah, gentle dames, it makes me greet to think how many counsels sweet, and many lengthened sage advices the husband from the wife despises.
So, shall we play this piece of music that was made for Frank by his friend in America?
I don't have it.
It's there.
A Scotch farewell dedicated to my brother Frank. When I come to the end of the road, and the sun has set for me, I want no tears on a gloom-filled room while I cry for soul set free. Miss me a little, but not for long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared.
So, lastly, but not leastly, I had sort of this idea that by now Frank would have given up his body. I'd be saying words like, "Well, Frank's given up his body," and what happens then? At that point, that's the final moving on, as it were. That's the sort of letting go, the last letting go, to moving on in the journey. But I heard tonight that's not quite the case. But it doesn't, I needn't go into the details. We can maybe hear them downstairs. But nonetheless, what has happened to Frank will happen to us all. And I think if Frank was here now, he would be saying to us, to make the most of the life we have, make the most of the time we've got in this life. And none of us know how long that is, but to really live it. And I know that seemed to be a message, that Frank really did try and live up to make the most of his life best he could. But we know at this time, when the body does, sort of finally give up, that we sort of put back what we've borrowed. And I think this is very beautifully put in a poem that our founder of this movement, Sangharakshita, has written, which I thought I had a copy of, but Mike is going to. I just want to give the title. It's called The Six Elements Speak, and Mike, another good friend of Frank, is going to read this. The Six Elements Speak. I think Bante says it better than I could.
I am earth, I am rock, metal and soil. I am that which exists in you, as bone, muscle and flesh, but now I must go. Leaving you light, now we must part, goodbye. I am water, I am ocean, lake, rivers and streams. The rain that falls from the clouds, and the dew on the petals of flowers. I am that which exists in you, as blood, urine, sweat, saliva and tears, but now I must go, leaving you dry. Now we must part, goodbye. I am fire, I come from the sun, travelling through space, to sleep in wood, flint and steel. I am that which exists in you. I am bodily heat, the warmth of an embrace. But now I must go, leaving you cold. Now we must part, goodbye. I am air. I am wind, breeze and hurricane. I am that which exists in you. As the breath in your nostrils, in your lungs, the breath that gently comes, that gently goes. But now I must go, for the last time, leaving you empty. Now we must part, goodbye. I am space, I contain all, from a grain of dust to a galaxy. I am that which exists in you. As the space limited by the earth, water, fire and air that make up your physical being. But now they have all gone, and I must go too, leaving you unlimited. Now we must part, goodbye. I am consciousness, indefinable and indescribable. I am that which exists in you. As sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch and thought. But now I must go, from the space no longer limited by your physical being, leaving nothing of you. There is no one from whom to part, so no goodbye. Earth dissolves into water, Water dissolves into fire. Fire dissolves into air. Air dissolves into space. Space dissolves into consciousness. Consciousness dissolves into
and then the blessings, and then Amazing Grace played, and we can leave in our own time to make our way down the stairs after. Well, at any time we feel like doing so, once Amazing Grace has taken hold, as it were. blessings be yours. May all gods protect you. By the power of all the Buddhas, may all happiness be yours. May all blessings be yours. May all gods protect you. By the power of all the Dharmas, may all happiness be yours. May all blessings be yours. May all gods protect you. By the power of all the Sangha, may all happiness be yours.